I love stories about old Hollywood.
And 50s Hollywood is incredible to shoot and to recreate.
This script had two stories, those who watched and those who were being watched.
Balance between depicting what happened accurately and authentically.
Hopefully I've created the guy that looks different enough from me and look closer towards what Reeves looks like without people sort of going like, oh, hey, he put a third eye in his forehead.
I kept looking at Ben. My God, this is amazing. He's actually changed. He's changed. And I couldn't figure it out how he was doing it. And then I realised he was wearing a false nose. Ah, Ben, you're it. He said, yes. Yes, I am.
Doing a film based on real people really is a challenge, and part of it was to try to capture, of course, the physicality. As it happens, Diane looks a lot like Tony Mannix, or at least they could be cousins.
Looked at some photographs of Tony, and we tried to alter the makeup slightly, to alter her face a little bit, and the wig was magnificent on her.
I tell you, I've really had a great time playing older than myself, because it's liberating.
Any costume designer wants, at some point, those costumes to become clothing. You have to get past the drag and into the story and into the character.
One of the scenes you meet Lenore Lemon and she's in this canary. Julie wanted to show that they belong together. And it's just things like that which bring out the themes.
There's this one great moment where Adrian's character and mine meet, but we don't really meet. Because the two worlds just brush up against each other.
There's a real contrast between the world of George and Tony and the world of Simo.
Aside from, you know, the obvious glamorous world that we all kind of
make it look as good as it should, just servicing the movie properly.
It was a different life, and I can understand why if you come from Cleveland and you look off at the distance, it seems like there's this amazing world that you'd like to belong to.
To me, this movie is about giving him a fair shake and telling his story.
We tried to be as true to the facts as possible.
If you mess with the facts too much, you don't want to lose credibility.
But on this picture, everyone's got something that they can look at and say, you know, I can use that as a basis for reality.
There's just not all the room in the world to tell all the information that exists.
I think people are drawn to stories that are true.
The script is certainly responsible to tell the truth as much as it can.
The guy used to play Superman, and he shot himself. What? Someone thinks he didn't.
There was no interest ever in making a biopic, you know, just a movie about George Reeves.
And that involves George is true. We were very careful to make sure that there was a real authenticity to George's story.
I probably did more research for this movie than I've ever done. I mean, more than many, many other movies combined.
Ben Affleck just got obsessed with George Reeves. I mean, he watched every episode, he watched all of his films.
I'll get to wear the blue and red.
Kind of created an audio database, and I put all these little selected audio clips of his voice on there. Let's just try one more. Yeah.
He'd be on the set just listening to George, you know, voice continuously because he just wanted to get the cadence.
Looking into someone else's life can force one to look into one's own life.
If you look at George's life, choices he made, whether or not it was suicide, when he decided to leave one woman for another, these choices weren't the best choices, and some of it he just wasn't really taking stock of what was good in his life.
The journey that Adrian Brody's character takes is really the journey that the film makes.
It brings you in through the Hollywood mystery, and then it holds you with the character drama.
Simo can only control his actions, and he did the right thing, and he wants to do right now. But
That's the dead end of thinking that your life is only important if you're a star. And a star, as you define it, even, because after all, George was a star to 30 million kids. It's just that not to himself.
LA wasn't an old city in the 40s and even 50s, and there were a lot fewer people here.
The city was less polluted, and it wasn't as crowded, and the valley had farms.
It's real easy to look back on that period with nostalgia and a kind of longing.
From 1950 to 1960, so much changed in the world, and really in Hollywood, the old studio system was going to be gone forever.
In the early 1950s, of course, the studio system was still in effect. It had been in effect for many, many years.
Hollywood was run by and completely involved in primarily one industry, and that was making movies.
A studio like MGM would probably make one movie a week.
They had people under contract, not only the players, but the directors and the writers and the staff, and then there were full-time employees who went there every day.
It was almost a village, in a sense then, a small, intimate kind of place.
A horse, because if you can't, we can't get full use out of you. What is it that you can act?
People spoke differently then. There was this, it wasn't really an English accent, but it wasn't really an American accent. It was a slightly formal, affected accent, and the real Toni Mannix had that. She was from a showgirl from New Jersey.
Toni Mannix was abroad with a lot of class, or as she would say it, class.
Diane affects a slight, very subtle eastern seaboard accent because it was Hollywood's way to try to neutralize everybody and turn these people into Hollywood stars. You couldn't have some girl going, "How y'all doing?" I mean, it's just...
He took the job on Superman just because he didn't think anyone would ever see it, and it didn't matter, and would go away, and no one watched television.
In your chosen career, and all you can do is dress up in tights and a cape and with a big S on your chest, And so it's not much of a career, is it, really, if you've got talent?
And there was very little crossover. Very little crossover. It was kind of like, he's the television actor, and here's the feature actor, and so forth. So there was a stigma.
Picture, Eddie.
There are fewer films being produced, there's less work, there's more uncertainty. All of this means that the studio system, as one might have known it, is long gone.
Times have changed because there's so many media now. There's television, there's theatre, there's film, and people all over the world are making films.
Directors now tend to have more independence. In the case of a director like myself, it probably worked to my advantage because I got to work with this, with Focus, this wonderful company that let me do what I wanted to do. I would never have had that freedom in the old Hollywood system. I just wouldn't have.